Hello, my name is Dylan Dunaway, and I'm doing a video presentation on tobacco use and why it is a public health issue in society. Tobacco for starters. So tobacco is essentially a type of plant. You can kind of see here, I have a picture of it. And whenever combined with nicotine, it can be highly addictive and have catastrophic effects on the body, which I will go over in the next slide. Tobacco is used in many different forms for people, and this includes cigars and cigarettes and chew, like oral tobacco. The most common form are cigarettes, and you can probably see in society there are lots of smokers out there, and the reason they're not quitting is because it's so addictive. And one other fact is that cigarettes and tobacco use used to be available for people in America 18 and older, but now there was recently a change in the past couple of years of tobacco use only being allowed for those 21 and older. So why is tobacco such a public health issue? I'm going to go over some downsides with you. The downsides are that there's increased health risk, and this includes cancer for pretty much any organ in the body, from the heart, well, not the heart, that's heart disease, but from the lungs to the kidneys, mouth, oral cancer, many different types of cancer. They can cause strokes, and cardiovascular disease or heart disease, and many more. Some other risks are it can cause your gums to decay, bad breath, just many different downsides and health disparities that come with it. Another downside is it's very addictive, and some addictions are not very good. If you compare it with working out and exercise, working out and exercise is a good addiction. It can be, whereas tobacco is a very bad one because it has all the health risks that come with it. Pollution is a very big issue with tobacco as well. Many people are subject to secondhand smoke, so it is an environmental hazard. Cost, billions of dollars are being put into tobacco use, and millions of people are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars every year on tobacco products just to increase their risk of dying. It also has many additive effects to those around. Like I said, secondhand smoke, about 50% are subject to secondhand smoke in the world, and you're not just putting yourself at risk for all these health issues, but you're putting other people as well by using tobacco. And one last issue is death. All these health risks, like cancer, can result in death. The mortality of tobacco use, or rather the deaths that are related to this disease or the health condition that it causes. So about more than 480,000 deaths are caused annually from cigarettes, and this includes secondhand smoke. Tobacco is responsible for 7 million deaths per year. So the 480,000 deaths annually is just in America, whereas 7 million deaths is for the whole world. And this is crazy. Like, an issue that can be prevented is killing so many people. It needs to be stopped. Tobacco, it's not even just cigarettes. It's, like I said, oral tobacco as well. The life expectancy is 10 years shorter whenever you use tobacco. And this isn't just like one tobacco product. This is someone who is addicted and uses regularly. The life expectancy is about 10 years shorter than the average person. Secondhand smoke in itself causes about 40,000 of these 480,000 deaths within America, and it causes heart disease and lung cancer. That's the reason people are dying, not just the smoke itself. So tobacco use is because of all these stats that I've shown you, tobacco is the leading cause of death in the U.S. that is preventable. So, like gun use, there's lots of more deaths resulting from guns, but that is the law. whereas tobacco is just an addiction that is a choice for people not to take, and it's our choice to help put in programs that can help these people, and it is the leading cause of death. So to date, over 16.9 million cases and 307,064 deaths have been reported in the United States, with numbers climbing disproportionately on a day-to-day basis. So this basically is just showing, like, right now, this study was conducted in 2021. There were about 16.9 million deaths revolving tobacco use, and in the U.S. it was 307,000. So not only is it just a big issue in the U.S., it's a huge issue around the world. So if we can stop using it in one place, it can eventually spread, and that's kind of the goal here. Prevalence. Why is tobacco so popular? Why do so many people want to use it? This is because of the addictions, and I'm going to go over the contributing factors that later, but here I'll go over how many people actually smoke. So in a study that was conducted in Iran, the prevalence of current tobacco use in Iran was 25.2% in men versus 4% in women. So this goes to show the differences in sexes and how prevalent it is with different genders. Tobacco use is more prevalent in rural areas than others, and it has a higher morbidity rate. So morbidity is basically the health conditions caused by tobacco use. So the higher morbidity rate leads to these health risks in rural areas, like I said earlier, like heart disease, cancer, stroke. And the reason it's so bad in rural areas is because they have less access to healthcare, and they have less access to programs to quit. So these people in the rural areas are more subject to using tobacco, and there's just so much more encouragement surrounding it as well. In 2000, around a third of the global population, with both sexes combined, and aged 15 years and older, were current users of some form of tobacco. By 2020, this rate has declined to under a quarter of the global population, and this is a good sign. So 32% of the global population in 2000, with men and women 15 years older, were using tobacco. And that's crazy. Something so addictive, what is being promoted every day, and this many people are using it, putting themselves at risk. But it's declined by over 10%, and the main reason for this is because of all the new alternative forms coming out. It's not like people are getting less addicted to nicotine and tobacco. It's that we're putting in new, different forms that, if used to more of an extent, can be worse than tobacco, but it can also be better. So, who are most affected by tobacco use? So, like I said, a couple slides ago, or last slide, was that adults living in rural areas, they actually account for 90% of smoking rates, and smoke more heavily than those in urban areas. And I gave the reason for before. They just have less access to help. And number two, people living in tobacco growing states, like traditional tobacco growing states like Georgia, Kentucky, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, and Tennessee. The smoking rates in these states are about 16%, whereas other states are about 13%. And this is because it's just more accessible to the public, easier to get. Military veterans are number three. Their smoking rate is over 21%. Most of this is in males 18 to 25, being 50%. So 50% of these males, 50% of these people that are smoking, these veterans, are males 18 to 25. And a big reason why is because these males go into the military and it's seen as something cool to do, so they will begin smoking. And once you start at about that age, what reason do you have to stop if you're being encouraged while in the military? And there's so much stress involving being in the military that this is how these people cope. So number four, adults that didn't graduate high school. So the smoking rate is 21.5% for these adults that didn't graduate high school, whereas it's 17% for those who did graduate. It has shown that there's an association between higher education and less smoking levels, mainly because whenever you drop out, you have less access, you have less push to not do bad things. So whenever you drop out of high school, you no longer have those teachers and those very educated people to inform you of why not to do certain things. So these adults didn't have this, so they're going to choose things on their own. The fifth one is Americans making less than $35,000 a year. So the smoking rate is about 20.2% for these Americans. And the reason because less access to ways to quit because of less money, and tobacco companies also target the poor, and more tobacco retailers are found in these communities where they can just go in and just buy anything. There's just not much safeguard for Americans less than $35,000 a year. They're just very targeted because they're so vulnerable in a poor state. Some contributing factors to tobacco use is nicotine addiction and dependence. So according to the World Health Organization, a drug dependence is a behavioral pattern in which the use of a given psychoactive drug is given a sharply higher priority over other behaviors which once had a significantly higher value. There's almost always nicotine in every tobacco product, resulting in more tobacco use. This nicotine attaches to receptors in the body, causing them to release dopamine, the feel-good hormone. So when you're constantly getting this feel-good hormone, this keep doing it feeling, why would you stop? And your body doesn't want you to stop. And another issue with dependence is withdrawal. So when people try and stop, smoking or tobacco use may have an improved concentration, reaction time, and the performance of some tasks when you're doing it. So whenever you decide to stop, following nicotine withdrawal symptoms include irritability, depressed mood, restlessness, anxiety, problems getting along with people, difficulty concentrating, and more. So it's so hard for these people to get out of this cycle, because why would you want to stop if you're just going to feel really bad? And relapse is very common among people trying to quit, with up to 80% relapse rate, which is crazy. Another contributing factor is serving the military, like I said. So in the military, acceptability of smoking by the social networks you make within the military really influence smoking, the peer influence, social pressure. Social factors are one of the biggest influencers of smoking. If other people are doing it, then why shouldn't I be? Stress of being in the military and feeling like tobacco use is a way out is also another reason. And there's also these things called smoke pits in the military, where people just go out and hang out and talk to other people while smoking. It just provides a good social outlet for them. Another final contributing factor is societal factors. So specifically, Nelson and Peterson, two authors of a scholarly article, noted by that at the end of World War I, tobacco use was collectively viewed as patriotic and as a staple for the American soldier. So smoking is often viewed as tough and is portrayed in the movies as something cool. So when people see their favorite actors smoking, they don't see a problem with it because they look up to them. Kids in school are starting to smoke at a high rate, and this is causing it to be more of a norm as well. So these kids are seeing all these people smoke, their parents, famous people, and they're saying, why not me? And as they grow up, they already are addicted to tobacco use, causing it to be more of a dependence. And if you started with something at a younger age, you're just going to keep doing it because it feels safe to you. Nearly 9 out of 10 adults who smoke cigarettes daily first try smoking by age 18. A public health intervention that was put into play are comprehensive tobacco control programs. So these, their aim is to reduce tobacco usage by creating tobacco-free indoor and outdoor areas, restricting young people's access to tobacco products, limiting tobacco advertising, having sustained counter-advertising campaigns, increasing the cost of tobacco products and providing easily accessible tobacco cessation products and services. And cessation is basically quitting. That's what that means. These programs not only limit people from access to tobacco, but it also eliminates the opportunity for secondhand smoke, which affects nearly half of the U.S. population. To be put in use, there has to be support from the community, though, and funding. So these aren't always like the best ways to do it, or they don't always succeed. Communication interventions are another one. They come in the form of advertisement, commercials, promotions, and counter-advertising. So over the years, more and more commercials have begun being made for the cessation or quitting of tobacco use. You see lots of cigarette commercials out there, and these commercials are used to target and go against something that is often advertised, like cigarettes. So this is what counter-advertising is. Mass media is so important because of the far range and wide audience it has. You can virtually reach out to anyone in the world and tell them the benefits of stopping using tobacco. It's so important that we be able to reach out to everybody, even the people that you don't even know. Promotions are one way that the tobacco industry counteracts increased tobacco products pricing, and communication interventions seek to outline the negatives of these promotions and show that the risk is not worth the reward. One final method of public health intervention for tobacco use is is electronic cigarettes and nicotine pouches. So the purpose of these pouches is to be an alternative for tobacco use. They're used almost more than cigarettes nowadays, and these flavored nicotine puffs can lead to addiction still, while making people feel healthier. They're still not good for your health, but they're slightly less harmful than smoking if the liquid used in the e-cigarette is not above the normal recommendations or modified. Nicotine pouches are an alternative for chewing tobacco, and those include Zens, and they still cause similar effects to chewing tobacco, but at a lower rate, consumed at the same rate. My biblical perspective of the matter is that Jesus doesn't want us to have to depend on anything in life besides him. So when we are reliant on tobacco products because we are addicted, it replaces Jesus at that point in time. We may come back to our senses after we have fueled the fire, but we are taking our eyes off of our Savior. We can't behold two things at the same time, so when we begin idolizing ourselves, what we think we need, then we are no longer beholding our King like he wants us to. When we behold Jesus instead of another idol, we are then able to be the hands and feet of him. We are then able to serve others to the best of our abilities with full attention and care. By being distracted, we lose sight of God's plan for us, began to spiral downwards towards our downfall until he picks us up again. Just because you're addicted to tobacco does not mean you can't serve Jesus. However, it makes it a lot more difficult because you can't serve two masters. That's all I have. Here are my references, and thank you.